Is that where it clicked for you? Do you have not an instance where it clicked, or just like a general?
You know what? I when you say that, the first thing that popped in my head was, when I went down there, I was still real timid, and I was so in that 5 or 6 year mode of Prince Justice. I just got my ass kicked, man. And I remember coming back the first couple weeks. After the first couple weeks, I came back and I was just beat, like physically beat. And I remember Savio and Dutch saying, you got to fight back, or these guys are going to eat you up. Yeah. They're going to eat you alive.
Which is something that,
and I never knew that.
Really? Because I was going to say something I've heard for years is someone will eat you up.
I've heard that too, and I had heard that coming up. Don't let people take liberties if they, that kind of stuff. And you hear it, but when you don't experience it, it's hard to really digest that. So after they had a talk with me about that, and I started fighting back and getting more physical. Being my size, I never wanted to hurt anybody for real, but I realized, you got to be physical in this business, and that's a misconception. Oh, people say it's fake and whatever. This is I know it's an extremely physical business on your body, and you have to be physical or you will get eaten alive. And the minute that I took that advice and started fighting back, it immediately turned around for me.
And then people, obviously, I'd assume, start getting scared shitless of
people. It started, carried over to the fans, obviously.
I would say the boys, like if I knew
guys weren't taking liberties,
I wouldn't want to beat you up.
Yeah, Ricky and I are so close. I talk to him a lot still, and he did a little run in TNA, and I've seen him at AAA Mexico, and he's a physical wrestler.
I think he's Macias, right?
Macias, yeah. And before he got to know me, and I was just a big white kid from America coming in, So and I think a little bit those guys they definitely tested you when you came. They wanted to see what you were about.
Who came in and out,
absolutely,
probably, right?
And I'm sure they saw different egos and different attitudes, so they don't know what you're showing up with. So they definitely tested me. And like Ricky, I'll never forget. Ricky would the chair shots, man, were just vicious. I went to the hospital after one of them, and I remember, when I got to that point where I fought back, all these guys were like, "Holy smokes!" Like. You passed the test. You're good to go, and it worked out great from there. And we just started having incredible matches, and that it was such a physical style there. They demanded it. It was Savio used to say, if you want to wrestle, stay in the States. If you want to learn how to fight, come to Puerto Rico, and he was so right. It was such a physical style.
And I would say part of your legacy, I assume that you want known for is some of the crazier shit, right?
Sure. No doubt. I've made it the niche of the character.
Yeah.
Good, for better or worse.
Right.
I made it the niche of the character.
Which, includes the tax and the scars that you have, and there's a whole boatload of, does that come from doing Puerto Rico? Do you think had you not done that, that wouldn't even...
I think that was the beginning of it.
Because in Puerto Rico, especially in IWA, they were doing some quote unquote deathmatch stuff, right? But not really.
At least once a week, I was in a tables match, hardcore anything goes match, chair on a pole.
Okay.
You name it.
Were you doing any of that in Roger Ruffin Wrestling Federation?
Never. I had taken one chair shot, I think, ever in on the Indies.
But it's once you get in that environment, you're like, well, you got to.
And you know what? I was always a maybe I'll say a basher of it. I was always a guy because Roger was such a purist and didn't believe in that stuff at all. So I was brought up that way. So I didn't believe in it at all. When I went to Puerto Rico and had to do it, I got to be honest, as soon as I got a taste of it, I loved it. It was so fun. And I really thought, the Attitude Era was starting to end, but the Attitude Era was very extreme. The Attitude Era was kind of coming towards an end at that time. We're talking 2002, 2003. And I saw that as an opportunity to kind of be a little different. No one else was doing it in TNA. It was starting to phase out a little bit, but it was still hot as far as that style. The character definitely lent itself to that kind of, So, I embraced it and I liked it a lot. And, looking back on it, if there's one thing I regret, I think I did too much of it. I probably should have tamed it down a little bit, but God, when you're young and your body still feels great and you're just like, bring it on, man.
Did you ever talk to Mick about that stuff?
A lot. When he was in TNA, he did his run there, 2009, I think, 2009.
Because I think he probably says the same shit. I think everyone who does that.
Yeah.
But it's just when you're young.
You're
right?
young,
Like,
and it's the same thing, not just in wrestling. It's everywhere. You never think anything's going to hurt you when you're young. You don't think you're ever going to get hurt or die or any of that stuff. And I think, I definitely think if Mick could have some of that stuff back, he probably would. I know I definitely would, a little bit of it back. But I'm also proud of what I've done with that character as far as that niche. We have done some crazy stuff. I mean, me and Rhino, did a lot of really crazy stuff, and me and Mick did, and it just, me and Sabu had the barbed wire match there. I was proud of that moment. That's probably one of the worst I've got hurt, but it was such a great moment because barbed wire ropes had never been done on TV in the United States. And it was on live paper.
Really?
Yeah, that 2005 match with Sabu, where they took the ropes down and wrapped it. It had never been done in the U.S. on television ever. It had been done, but never televised.
Gotcha.
So
Well, I knew.
I thought it was kind of like breaking through. If you're going to do something, it's hard to do something for the first time ever in this business, especially. And that was it. And so
What was the injury? Like you said, that was the worst you got.
That was the worst. I've had two that were really bad. That one was bad. I got cut really bad. I had 137 stitches up the side of my arm.
Jeez, and he's showing me them right now.
Yeah, it was an ice pick from Sabu.
Wow.
And that was pretty bad. And then probably the worst I got hurt was at Bound for Glory in 2009. Bubba and Devon choke slammed me off the side of a stage through a flaming table. And I was so focused on the table, I forgot that there was concrete right underneath it. And man, it messed me up pretty good. My back, I was out for a couple months, and the bruising was so bad. The doctor that I saw said he'd only seen a bruise that bad on a human cadaver before. It was so deep. I mean, it was as dark as your shirt.
Just dark. Does that I guess the way I think is the way I wrestle, is the indie style, and I'm always I don't know, the TNA, is it a little less pressure to really care because you know that TNA will you'll be on TV when you come back from an injury, or you know what I'm saying, like almost going into that and taking that bump, you're like, well, I should be okay, but if I get fucked up, at least I know there'll be work for me once I get back. Yeah, no, that never crossed my mind. And I always felt, just like you said, that, if I'm hurt and I'm out, TNA is going to be there for me. I mean, I was well established by then, right.
Obviously. The company was taking and does take great care of me. And I never felt threatened. I never felt in my head that, boy, I better watch out, because if I do this spot and I get hurt, then I'm going to lose my spot on the roster. It never once glossed my mind, and it never once happened. And so, but yeah, I can see where a lot of guys would think that, especially with the way this business is, next man up.
Well, I think because when kind of my group, we started with IWA Mid-South, didn't start, but that's where a lot of us made our name, and we watched, my friends were the normal wrestlers, but there were a lot of those hardcore wrestlers. And I just knew that, if the Necro Butcher or Mean Mitch Page or Ian Rotten or whatever, got fucked up doing something that a lot of them did, and I watched them all do it. It's just well, it's not like they would, they were out, or to be honest, I saw a lot of them come the next week and still wrestle, after, and those guys do, and Pondo, those guys do all the time.
Yeah.
That style
and the wrestling hurt all the time. And those guys, the Necros and Ians and stuff, they have such a tough mindset, those guys. That's one thing I respect about those guys is, I'd seen them too, where they'd take a devastating bump on a Friday night, and the next Saturday, Friday, I'd run into them in another town, and they could barely walk, but they'd go to that ring and work. And, I always respected that, out of those guys, that they were, and it's tough.
Yeah. But it is nice that, I'm glad that you didn't have that. That's just me. I'm saying I think I would have had that mindset. Yeah. But that you didn't have it. You knew that a company had your back.
I probably would have had that mindset
in your head.
It was one less thing in my head, and I definitely would have had that mindset had it been 2004, 5, 6, the early TNA. But by that time, I was pretty well established. I was pretty well entrenched in the history of the company, so I didn't worry about that as much. And there were times where I was after that fire table, I was pretty banged up and needed a little time off, and they gave it to me no problem. And and then when I came, Russo was writing at the time, so when I was ready to come back, they plugged it back in. Bro,
you got a Russo impression?
Oh God,
you've been through all. That's kind of wild. Like you've really been through all of those, the writers and the regime. Seen them all.
The regimes I've been through and seen, bro. It's they're for the change. There's been a lot of change, obviously, over the years and stuff. But I mean, I look back on it, and Jeff and Dutch were at the beginning, and then Russo, and then Dusty Rhodes for a while in 2006, I think, was booking, and then Vince came back, and then Scott D'Amore had it for a short run, and then Jeff came back, and then we had, and then Hulk and Eric, and then Bruce Pritchard. And now it's the writers have stayed consistent. Like Matt Conway's been there for a long time. Dave Lagana's been there for a few years now as well.
Tell me, we're winding down here, but like I know there's a lot of WWE guys that sometimes come in and out of there, but like is there one guy that was like a homegrown guy that you like saw like become like a real star? That like sticks out. Does that make sense?
AJ's the first one that pops in my head.
Okay.
AJ and Joe. As far as, are you talking like as far as homegrown guys that came in the company, established them there?
Yeah, but in your head, like, sometimes when you watch, we watch wrestling and we're just like, oh, like, hey, that's a guy doing a thing. But sometimes you just watch you watch our friends and you're like, fuck, man, this dude is good. Like, this guy is good at what he does or whatever he does,
Yeah. I always felt that way about AJ. Watching him, man. And I know AJ, in 1999, the first time I ever met him in Wildside for Bill Behrens. And he was wearing black track pants and tennis shoes, and he looked like a good athlete inside. And I'll never forget the first time I watched him. I was like, "Holy smokes, this guy is just amazing!" And throughout TNA, and my best matches were with that guy. I mean, how could you not have a good one with him? I mean, he literally could have a good match with anybody. And my favorite match of all time is that 2005, the very first Lockdown. Me and him main evented it. First time main eventing anything for TNA. In that cage, and it's my favorite match of all time. We just tore it up, and every match I had with him, God, it was just so fun. And he's doing great. Man. I'm so happy for him. He's taking Japan by storm.
He really
man.
is, man. And I go over there and like, and I hear the stories, and I see like where they're just like he's the dude.
Yeah,
like, he's the man. There's four of those. There's four guys on that in New Japan.
Yeah,
and he's one of them.
It couldn't happen to a better guy, man. Forget about his talent aside, because I think that's pretty widely known by everybody. But the person he is too, just the kind of guy he is, and the caring person he is, and the non-selfish person that he is. He's just a great guy to be around. So.
Man. Well, that's it.
Man, that was fun. That went so fast. I want to do another 45 minutes.
Bullshit.
We'll come back and do part 2.
I knew I had to get you in here.
Oh, bro, I wanted to do it for so long. I really did.
Like right now, you're like, let's do it tomorrow. I'm like, no, bro. No. Like, I know this ain't getting done. You don't come in the fucking room. I know you'll enjoy it, too.
I had a blast, dude. I want to do it again. I can't believe it's over already. We should do a part 2. I would love to do a part 2. We could talk about some other stuff sometime. Yeah, I just I forgot where I was going with that, but
I said this. I had to get you to do it.
Oh yeah. If there's one thing that I'm a fault of, and this is just in life in general, I am the biggest procrastinator. I just am, man. I apologize about that. No. I'm glad we finally knocked it out.
And I was like, listen, get in my room and let's fucking trust me, we'll get it done. You're on Twitter.
Twitter at The Real Abyss. One word.
Else?
That's it. Just Facebook. No. Just Twitter.
Okay. And people want to. You
know what, bro? Can I plug my new website?
Yeah, please.
It's actually not open yet, but by the time they listen to this, it'll probably be a couple weeks. It'll be open. But it's themonsterabyss.com.
Great.
It's getting ready to open up. It's going to have some neat stuff on it and news feeds and all kinds of neat stuff. But themonsterabyss.com and at The Real Abyss on Twitter.
And the TNA guys can take outside bookings and stuff too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one cool thing, man. It's been really nice to get out and see for so many years I wasn't allowed to do indies, and and we couldn't really get out, and we weren't. The schedule didn't permit it. TNA's schedule wouldn't permit it. But now with things the way they are, to get out and be back on the indies a little bit, and I not to be cheesy about it, but I feel like going back to the roots, and I love getting out. I've been pretty busy on the indies, and just getting out and seeing and feeling that indies thing again, and feeling the love from the fans that didn't get to see on the indies for a long time. It's so cool.
And it's
I
cool
love
too
it.
because you guys, you're still on TV. You're on TV every week.
Absolutely.
And then you still get to go to these shows. So like you still have that TV power, and as opposed to like a guy who gets let go from WWE or even let go from TNA, and then like maybe they have like 6 months of like oh, I remember that guy from TV, and then eventually it's like, wait, was that guy on TV?
Yeah.
You're still
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
no doubt. So it is. It's great. It's it's very gracious and awesome of TNA